been feeling blue. My money is too. Shawty act rude till she seen it too. I've been feeling blue.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What's the Dealio? I am your host, Jay Siano, and to the right,
Mike Stienberg, HedgeStone Business Advisors, Sabre, Scale, what else?
Scale, SBX. Yeah, we keep growing, man.
Yeah, man, all departments, one stop. So
That's it.
Today, we got an amazing guest here. He is an absolute beast. Young, hungry, making it happen. Welcome, Justin Norman. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for
Welcome
having
to the
me,
show.
guys.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Of
so
course.
this is
we're
good because I don't know Justin. So we caught up briefly, and I'm super excited because he's like the perfect case study in business brokerage.
Perfect.
And I think that's why you have him here.
Yeah, but I really, we've had, 2 or 3 meetings before in person?
Yeah.
So he's under Christian Rodriguez's team.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about
And,
Christian.
it's just, I've seen him grow. He's done a couple of deals in the beginning of the year. In the last, 6 months, he closed, 8 deals?
Yeah.
8 business
All
deals.
right. Let's stop there for a second. So
That's unheard of.
In the last 6 months, so you're in the business how long entirely? Business brokerage?
Just a little bit over a year.
Just a little over a year. And in your first calendar year of being a business broker, how many deals did you close?
10.
Wow. All right. Well, so, right there, that proves
There's a model.
Beyond that, it proves that and this takes nothing away from you, Justin, it proves that it's easier to close deals in your first year in business brokerage than in residential or commercial real estate.
Yes, but he's an exception because he is, usually people close a couple of deals. To hit 10,
Right.
That's I didn't do that. When at 21, you're further than me.
Yeah. 21, by the way, I was just at the club. So you're way further than
So I'm
me.
really happy for you. So what kind of deals have you done this year?
I did a lot of restaurants to begin with, a few delis, pizzerias, and then towards the end of the year, I started getting some laundromats in, and now I have a few laundromats in the pipeline that I'm trying to get through as well.
I saw the one in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
That's what's up. What's easier to sell, laundromat or pizzeria? What do you think is the easiest business to sell?
I'd probably say laundromats.
Laundromats? Why is that?
It really depends on where to, but a lot of laundromats, it's owners. There's a lot of more buyers, I should say, and the numbers are not always there, but it's like a hit or miss. With pizzerias and restaurants, there's a lot of other stuff like payroll is super high. Those numbers used to tend to get mixed up. The cash flow is usually always off.
Always off, right?
off.
So the due diligence on a laundromat is easier to verify than a pizzeria or a restaurant.
Yeah, either if it's a coin op, you look at the utilities, you come do the collections with the owner. That's pretty much it. You evaluate the equipment. Pizzerias, restaurants, it's hard to find the cash flow. The due diligence is a problem. You have to come in and watch the traffic, work the counter, whatever it may be, and it's not always
100%.
Yeah.
Because they pay some people, they pay vendors in cash, pay some payroll in cash. So how do you verify that? The sales tax, obviously. I don't want to get anyone in trouble on the camera, but the good thing about the coin laundromat business is that there's no sales tax on the self-serve.
Yeah.
So they save right away 9% as an expense.
I didn't realize that.
Huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the value add on the laundromat business is that you can finance because there's assets.
Yeah.
Are your buyers financing the deals?
They do a lot of seller financing. I always have to educate buyers on, getting funding from a bank, like a traditional bank. They don't understand coin laundromats. Usually it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
I always push them to Eastern funding, but most of the time it's either seller financing or cash. But I've been pushing Eastern funding a lot lately because they come in with expectations to get a traditional loan, and I tell them, they're not going to show tax returns.
And they understand that, right? Eastern Funding?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eastern Funding's a bank that, your friend who was one of our guests worked for Eastern Funding. What's her name?
Ashley Markowski.
Ashley, she's a beast.
Yeah.
They don't look at tax returns. They look at what are their utility bills, how much machines do they have, what's the value of the machines,
Yeah.
and they come up with a formula based on that, and then they lend. At what kind of rates? Do you know what kind of rates they're lending at?
Don't quote me, but I believe it was like anywhere from 30 to 40%, maybe. Yeah, I think
30 to 40% down. And how about the interest rate?
Not
I
too
believe
sure.
it's 8 to 10 right now is the interest rate over.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think this schedule is 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
So when you're buying a laundromat through Eastern, your cash on cash return is it's very high because you can leverage it.
Yeah.
So, for the layman out there that don't understand the laundry business, when you're talking about coin op versus what?
Card.
Okay.
And also
Explain.
there's wash and fold as well. So
Yeah.
there's coin laundromats that take coins, and then there's card system laundromats that someone puts in cash and they get a card, right?
Yeah.
So is that so? There's essentially like a place that you put money into in the laundromat, and you get a card.
Get a card.
Similar to like you go
Like Dave and
karting,
Buster's.
Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in that case, it accepts credit cards, it accepts cash.
It doesn't accept credit cards. Some do,
doesn't.
some do, some don't.
Okay.
Have you seen the ones that accept credit cards?
No.
No.
So it's all cash.
That's something that, that's new innovation that's coming out. So basically it's all cash right now. But it's trackable.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a deal in Massachusetts, and the machines were originally coin, and he brought the kiosk, Laundry Works. So the buyers, the customers, they come in and they get a card and put money on the card. So he can track the sales that way.
But it's so much easier, I would assume, again, that you don't have to come in and take thousands of coins out of a machine
Weigh them.
and weigh them and turn them into cash.
So much
right?
easier. But sometimes buyers like the coins because it's all cash, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they don't really trade.
Yeah,
That's the old school mentality. The
Right.
new school scalable mentality is to track everything.
right.
So you can get better financing.
Sure.
Get more locations.
Do the bigger like franchise laundromats, like the bigger companies, what do they do? I would assume they're
They're
no
all
longer
card.
coin.
They're all card,
sense.
and they have wash and fold. So
Okay.
a lot of these laundromats also have wash and fold. What is wash and fold? Do you know?
Yeah, it's when people come in, they drop their clothes off. And it gets washed.
What percentage do you think is?
Of like self-serve versus wash and fold?
Yeah, usually on your deals.
I usually see like maybe 60% self-serve, 40% wash and fold. I think
That could be high too.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's your best laundromat deal right now?
I think it's the one in Massachusetts.
Could you give a little pitch on it?
Yeah, it's right now it has the potential to be a fully absentee. The owner likes the margin, so he works it 2 days out of the week. Like I said, it does have the card kiosk, so
Nice.
it has the potential to be ran fully remote. He has security cameras. He has automatic doors, automatic lights. All you have to do is place an employee. It will take a little hit on your cash, but I think we got it approved for funding, so
Nice.
it's a very good deal.
Was that the 600?
Yeah.
Nice.
So give us the stats. I might want to buy it. So what are the numbers?
Gross revenue is about 300.
Okay.
Cash flow is about 182. There's no payroll. He has no employees.
Okay.
So the margin is very, very good there.
And there's a lease for how many years?
20-year lease.
20 years.
There's about 9 years remaining.
Lease?
New lease. 20 years lease is,
Is it
9
20?
years remaining.
9 years remaining.
9 years remaining.
But the landlord.
So they're in the option periods. It was probably a
Yeah.
10-year with a couple of options.
Yeah, we would need a couple more options.
Yeah.
Is the buyer looking to get a couple more options on the lease, or is he good with the?
Yeah,
Nice.
they're gonna get a few more options. The landlord doesn't have a problem with it. So
Have you guys ever run into landlords that try to leverage?
Oh my God, I could tell you a quick story time about a lot of landlords.
Well, no, I'd like to hear it because basically it's interesting for me because of what we focus on, right? So we're kind of like
We
watching.
focus on the bigger landlords.
No, we focus on every landlord, really. I mean,
mom and
I
pops?
prefer to focus on the bigger landlords because I know exactly typically how they're going to operate rather than Mr. and Mrs. Smith who, are super emotional, but which is why you like business brokerage better than residential real estate. Having said that, it's leverage. A landlord is always looking for leverage, right? So when somebody comes to them asking for something, they're looking for something in return.
Absolutely.
So the minute that you're Justin going to a landlord and saying, Mr. Landlord, there's 9 years left on this lease. We have a buyer for the laundromat. Would you extend the lease? Can we get some additional term? The landlord's going to be like, well, I want a percentage of the sale of the business. Yeah. Is that what do you find
so
that?
So in the car wash space, if there's 9 years left on the lease, the landlord struck gold, because every year, the rule of thumb in the car wash space is $10,000 to $15,000 per year is what the landlords charge on Long Island. So if they want a 20-year lease, 11 more years, times that by 10 to 15,000, you're looking at 110 to $160,000 in just a fee, extortion fee.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I wasn't wrong,
Not wrong.
No, that's crazy.
And I had a deal once when I was selling a liquor store in 2017, and the landlord was so greedy, and I don't even care if he sees this, but he was the most greedy guy. Like, he wouldn't let the deal happen unless I gave him $10,000.
Yeah.
So I gave him $10,000, and I was at the time, 2017. That was what, 7 years ago. I was young. I was 24, and I needed this money. This was a $60,000 commission. I'm like, listen, I'm doing a cross country trip with my wife trying to close this deal. I was in Yellowstone National Park. I had no service. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, can somebody create a meme of Mike in Yellowstone?
I was in
no
Yellowstone.
Service? Please.
And you know what was crazy? I called them. I convinced the buyer. I still have the notebook today, all the notes that I was taking to convince. I'm like, you have to take this deal because it's worth way more. If you don't take this, I could flip this. This is a pitch that I say to buyers. I could flip this deal for you. You buy this deal and I could sell it for more right away. Just take it. And then he did. But he didn't show up to the closing the first time. And I was in Yellowstone. I was like, what's going on? The landlord has my $10K. He wasn't showing up to the closing. I thought I was going to lose everything. I mean, I had a little bit of money, but that's still $10K back then was something.
$10K now. You're not taking my $10K now. What are you talking about?
But it was crazy, but I got the deal done, and you know what? That's a great story. I got the deal done. My dad picked up the check for me, and he's like, "Mike, you just made $60,000. I'm working for you, right? I'm working with you right now." And then he quit his job and he started working with me.
What a great story. So, Justin, how did you meet Mike?
Through Christian. I actually knew Christian a bit. I wasn't too familiar with him, but we used to play basketball here and there.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure like the same way you guys hoop.
Yeah.
And Daniel did introduce me to the idea of joining, but it was hard to really get through to anyone. I was reaching out to Christian. He opened up a little bit, but I think he was just testing to see how serious I was. Yeah. And I kind of do that to people now. People say, they see me closing deals and they think it's easy. Oh, what do you do? I want to try it. And Christian said, you know what? Come watch me work. I shadowed him for a few months, started going to the office, and I met Mike at the office. And from there, I got my email and just started working.
So for somebody that's considering business brokerage, what kind of advice would you give to them? Like, if you could talk to yourself 2 years ago and you didn't know much about the business, now that you're over a year in, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's just curious about getting involved in business brokerage?
It's a lot of planting seeds. You don't eat your fruit the same day you plant. It's an emotional roller coaster if you aren't ready for it. And Christian was telling me, he drilled this into my head. He said, I see you getting attached to your deals. Don't do it. Be okay with the outcome. Whatever happens, just keep working. And my first few deals, they're in the pipeline, and I'm like, the seller's not answering. The buyer's not answering. The seller won't let the buyer do. I was going crazy. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? He's like, you can't do anything. Just relax and work on your other deals.
Yeah.
And I do that now. Like, the deal gets done or it doesn't, and I'm fine with whatever happens.
Yeah.
For you to know that at your age, you're gonna be a millionaire in a year. Like, you're about to be a millionaire because you know not to get disencouraged or disheartened from deals. That's the biggest learning experience. A lot of people, even people that are in their 50s, 60s, they're like counting on every little deal. You already know, like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Let's move on to the next deal. Let's plant all those seeds so some of them will grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of work. Like, people just see like the Instagram highlights, and you don't understand. Like, if I show you my call log, people are like, "Oh, how do you do?" It's a lot. It's not easy. It's not just get a listing and people just, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to buy."
You got to put the work in.
Yeah, tell me about your call log. Like, what does that mean?
50 calls a day.
50?
50 calls a day.
From new people or just at all calls altogether?
Just all together. Okay. 50 calls a day at least.
Is that like your goal or is that like a standard?
It's like a standard. And before, when I first started, I'll be honest, I was scared to make calls. I was nervous.
Yeah, that's natural.
And now
Mike's
it's like,
still scared to make calls.
it's like now if I don't make a certain amount of calls for the day, I literally get frustrated. If I'm not working or I'm not doing something productive, it immensely bothers me. Yeah. I feel like I'm not doing.
So you're a passion for this, a lot of passion for this. Yeah. Let's go.
So, and we were talking before Mike arrived because he was late. And you said something to me about like you're an athlete, you play basketball, talking to your mother, talking about like maybe transitioning from a basketball career to business brokerage or business in general. Sure. She gave you a little pushback, and talked about maybe not quitting. And you said something really profound to me on how you view what you're doing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that? Because it was another thing that right away when you said it, I was like, dude, you're wise beyond your years. Like, you're very mature for your age.
Yeah, I feel like just to piggyback off what he was saying, a lot of people overlook what quitting can mean. And I was in prep school and I was going to go play like D3 or something. And I really just sat down one day and thought about it. I'm like, I'm not that tall. I'm good at basketball, but I think it's time for me to call the quits. I think I can be doing something better. I could be making a lot more money than people are my age if I find the right thing and put my mind to it. And I was saying I think people need to know when to quit the job that's not paying you enough, when to quit the relationship that's not making you happy. Just when to quit. It's not always a bad thing. And I feel like a lot of older generations, they think quitting is always bad. But quitting certain things, if I didn't quit basketball, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I
why
love that
it's
psychology.
important to quit when it's necessary.
So if you don't change, you're not growing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think, that's such a great message for young people listening, because the earlier that you're able to, make smart decisions for your future, the younger you'll be when you achieve success or when you achieve, making $1 million, right? Like, and I think that there's so many young people today that just don't necessarily go all into something, that are just, kind of looking for, an answer without, really putting in the work. And I think you're very fortunate that you found Christian when you did. And, and it's a testament to Mike, because when he and I first met, I realized that he's creating opportunities for people that is very different and unique from like the real estate space. Yeah. They're very, there's a lot of similarities in ways, but business brokerage is an untapped market that I learned so much more about just by, being with Mike. And the fact, again, like, not taking anything away from you again, but the fact that you closed 10 deals in your first year, like, I understand you're good and you're obviously unique based on everything you're talking about, but dude, it's very difficult to do that in your first year in the real estate business. I don't care how good you are, and it's very difficult.
It is. I would like to know a little bit, and I agree with you. It's a very good industry right now. It's one of the hottest. I think it's the hottest industry out there. But to go into your process, so someone calls you. Could you explain how you handle a buyer? Someone calls you. Do you send them information about businesses right away? Let's talk about the process a little bit.
When people call me, I'll answer, and I let them say what they have to say. I always listen first, and then I immediately ask what I need to, I get the most important information, and they end up just, after I ask one or two questions, I'll say, oh, you said you're in so-and-so now, what makes you want to look at a laundromat? And they'll just tell me their whole life story. And I just listen, and I write everything down, and then based on what I know, I usually know our pipeline. I know what we have. I'll send them what they inquired about. I'll tell them whether, I'll kind of be realistic with buyers. They come in. I've had buyers come in with $50 and try to buy $1 million laundromat, and they can't get funding. And I'll tell them, I think it's a long shot. I don't want to waste your time. I can show you the place if you want, but I'm not sure what we'll be able to do. And I be very real. I'm very real with buyers, and I don't try to, have anyone run around and look at stuff they know.
It's really good.
And I think people, they appreciate that. Like just recently I had a buyer come in. He really liked this laundromat. The seller was being tough. He presented a very strong offer, cash, $15K under the price. The seller took 4 or 5 days just to say yes or no. Still didn't say yes or no. I called the buyer. I said, look, I think you should pull your offer. I'll send you some other stuff. This guy's wasting your time.
Yeah.
And I think that, rather than just trying to get a deal done, relationship building is a little more important.
That's his business. Everything is relationship based. And now that guy trusts you so much because you're not a desperate broker. It's huge.
Yeah.
It is.
Tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you're talking about is, patience and playing the long game, and it takes most people a lot longer to realize the things you're talking about, which is, it's amazing that at your age, you're already starting to realize that, you can't fall in love with a deal, or we say in real estate, never fall in love with real estate. And that's really challenging for people. When you find something that you really, really like, people fall in love and they'll chase a deal and overpay and, all the things.
Yeah. And
it's the biggest thing that I find in any business is you get out what you put in. And what you were saying, it's not easy. It's not, everything looks more glamorous than it is, right? And people will look at you and see the successes and not see the sacrifice. Same with basketball. Like anything, if you're good at anything, like you have to go above and beyond because you want it more than the person next to you.
Yeah.
That's the only way to achieve greatness in anything.
Yeah. And what piece of advice would you give to someone that's just starting to become a business broker? How would you start?
I would say find a mentor. Like, luckily for me, I have Christian, and if it wasn't for Christian, I'd still be jumpy. I'd still be excited. I'd just try to get deals done without even making sense. I wouldn't have the clarity. I would be going crazy. So I think more so than a lot of people think you should just get in and just start calling people and doing it. If you don't know what you're doing, buyers will literally ask you, is this your first time doing this? Or you know what you're talking about? And I think getting a mentor or someone that can guide you.
Being on a team, right?
Yeah, especially that. Being that, we have Christian, like our whole team, everyone is always working, so nobody's like lacking.
That's great.
Like we all keep each other just going. And I think when you have a team like that, it's hard. It's very hard to fail.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's, collaboration too, right? Like that team. And again, you're used to that in sports, and that's rare in business. It's not, there's not a lot of industries that operate in teams where it's collaborative and everybody's like rooting for each other to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best, because then you really feel like you're all doing it together and everybody wins. It's the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think our team is very selfless. Like we all we'll share our deals even if it doesn't make sense to share the deal.
Yeah.
We close a lot of deals together.
Yeah.
And it shows that it's more than just some commission.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like you put more energy in than somebody else and they're getting an equal piece to you and felt some type of way?
I haven't felt the type of way, but I would say I did put in more work, but I know you do the same for me, so it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And I'd rather
until
close.
They don't do the same. Right? Like, I mean, but that's what great teams do.
Sure, you've had a lot of stories.
Of course. I mean,
I have too.
You weed out the people who are taking advantage and not putting in the same amount of energy. It doesn't mean, again, like if you didn't put the same amount of energy into one specific deal and benefited, that's fine so long as you're carrying your weight.
Yeah.
But when people are like just along for the ride and not carrying their weight, that's when they got to go.
Yeah. There are people like that, That's
inevitable.
part of the business, that they don't carry their weight, and it's either sink or swim.
Yeah.
I find that, most people think that they work harder than they do. Like in general, I think by default, you think that you work harder, you're smarter, you're better looking, like you kind of convince yourself, especially young. And I'm talking about myself, like 23 years ago, sitting in your chair. I was like, I thought I was better than I was. I thought, further along than I was. By the way, that's like a positive thing, I think, when you're starting out. Very positive. Because like you have that self-confidence to get you through like the initial stages of getting punched in the face constantly, which is inevitable, especially in sales. But at a certain point, when you start to surround yourself with people that are all operating at a really high level, you start to realize the difference. You're like, yo, I thought I worked out hard. And then you go work out with somebody who's like, at the top of their game. And you're like, man, I got work to do, Like that's the best feeling ever. And that's how I personally grow still today. Like I seek out those people who are like way better than me at whatever it is. And that's how you compress time. That's how you got to where you are. Yeah, but that's how you collapse time. The fact that you're at where you are right now is a result of the people that you're surrounded by. Because if you weren't surrounded by Christian and Mike, you'd be 5 years from now, you'd be at where you are.
Yeah, you should hear Christian. It's when I first started, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to get lunch. He's like, what are you eating lunch for? He's like, you didn't even make no calls.
That's right.
And he's like that all the time. He was like, oh, I'll get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. It's 5 a.m. He's like, why don't you get up earlier? Like he's always on top of us, and it keeps us sharp.
I love to hear that.
It's the best. It's funny because like that mentality of like, I used to love people would be talking about lunch. About lunch is for wimps. It's funny. Meanwhile, now I'm like, lunch is really important. You need to be very hydrated and nourished.
Nutrients.
Just eat at your desk. Great. Well, we're closing it up here. We got to talk a little bit more about where people can find you, Justin, and where are you available for mentorship? Where you at? What's going on? A lot of people can be reaching out.
IG tag?
Yeah,
Sold by Just.
Sold by Just.
There you
Hit
go.
him up. He's killing the game. Small business guru. Love it.
It's amazing, man.
Congratulations. Got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing great though, man. I'm proud of you.
You're off to a great start, man. It's good stuff. What would you last piece of advice for anybody listening here? Any thoughts? Any closing remarks from you?
Sometimes when things seem like they're falling apart, they're really falling in place. I got into this at the worst time of my life. I literally almost died when I got into this.
Explain.
Long story short, I had kidney stones 2 years back to back, unrelated to health, just a unlucky cause. And I had a ton of surgeries in and out of the hospital, ended up with sepsis. And at the same time, I was trying to do this. I'm in the hospital with my computer, trying to make calls, literally impossible. I can't breathe on the phone. And Christian kind of touched up on this, but he almost kicked me off the team because he thought I was just nonsensing and, BSing. And I would come into the office at 10, late, super late, because I just couldn't sleep. And I would tell him, like, yo, like, I'm going through it. And he wouldn't believe me. And I completely understand that. And as soon as I finished and everything recovered, it just made me, like, go hard. Because sitting in the hospital while everyone else's life is moving forward, it just does something to you. It's not pleasant at all.
Adversity, I think that people that really achieve great things oftentimes are stacked up against things, whether it's health, whether it's, tragedy, loss, like whatever it is. I feel that tremendously. And that's at the end of the day, like nobody's going to do the shit for you. I mean, it's very simple, right? Like, and thank God you're okay and your health is good and you were able to get to the other side of that and kind of, push yourself and pour gasoline on it. But, I think the reality is like the world is full of soft people today that expect others to do shit for them, and listen, man, like what you say resonates with me because I lost my dad 4 weeks ago and he had sepsis. So like the minute you said that word, yeah, but listen, like we're all going through things. And at the end of the day, like I could choose to go sit in the corner and cry, and that's not really going to feed my family. It's not going to help my teams produce. And, it's that type of thing. You got to be self-motivated. You're always going to be up against things. And it's all about like how you prioritize those things. And the fact that you were sitting in a hospital bed doing what you were doing, man, is a testament to your drive. And Mike's right. You're going to be very successful, bro.
Hell yeah. And I remember when Christian told me about that. You know, so happy you're doing better, man, and all great things.
Keep
Thank
crushing,
you.
bro.
Keep
Thanks
crushing.
for joining us.
Thanks for having
Thanks
me.
so much.
It's good stuff.